So, you have really like an amazing history, and I think what's cool is, look, we're two guys who, over the course of 8 years, our career, we've done a whole bunch of different things,
Yes, you
right?
have.
And we made that move, honestly, just without regard for what people would think, or
Which is how you should do it.
or what your legacy would be. What's
Same-
always
same here.
That's what I was going to get to. Like, it's always impressed me that you're a lawyer, you have a family, you had a career that was not just like 1 year, 2 years, and you switched it up. This was like your job.
Yep.
This was your career, and then you were like, you know what? I'm not happy in this. I'm going to switch it up, but we'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get to that. But can we start from the beginning?
Let's start from the beginning.
You're born and bred in Brooklyn.
Born and bred in Brooklyn, first generation American.
What hospital?
Via shit. Oh my God. You just caught me. Brookdale Hospital.
Off the C
Brookdale
train.
Hospital. I believe Brookdale Hospital is the birthplace of Mike Tyson
Whoa.
and Michael Jordan.
No kidding.
Brookdale, yes.
I think
Wow.
that's a Biggie lyric.
I know, yeah.
Yeah. And I think the late great Sean Price was also born in Brookdale.
No kidding.
Yeah.
And how many siblings you have?
I am an only child.
No kidding.
Yeah.
You were
Really?
enough.
That's-
I was enough. Well, my mom had me, and then my mom and my dad were never married.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got a lot of half siblings,
Mm-hmm.
but I grew up the only child, which was actually kind of fun, man.
Yeah?
Yeah,
We don't know what that's like.
it was all
Yeah, no.
mine.
Yeah.
I didn't have to share. So now having 4 kids is it's really it's really bugged out. Like how I have to program myself to be as selfish as I am.
So did you when you decided to have kids, were you like, one may be enough, or were you like, I want to have a brood?
I wanted 2.
Yeah?
And then we had 3. And then we had 4. But my wife is so bad. So, you know.
Yeah. So
Wait, growing up, did you ever want siblings?
There were a couple of times when I wanted siblings, but other than that, I was just so used to, being into my own head, man, being into my own space, being free to be a nerd and grow up with hip hop and just the freedom of I was kind of like a latchkey kid because my mom worked 24/7. So other than the basics of like doing your schoolwork and being respectful, like I had free reign of like the home and the streets.
Yeah?
But I knew I knew at a young age what my boundaries were.
Okay.
And my boundaries were to never disappoint your mom. My mom.
That's pretty good. How were you at like jumping on the train and just going wherever you wanted?
See, yeah, I mean, but you got to think this is like late 70s,
Right.
80s, so we were really jumping on the train.
Yeah.
Riding the outside of the train.
Did you really?
Yeah, and we would do stupid shit because we didn't have video games and stuff like. I mean, New York was pretty lawless, so I remember me and my friends would travel to the Bronx just so that we could cross the elevated subway, like just the L, just across, like outside. Like we would cross that shit
Man.
a couple of times, and we didn't have a militarized police state at the time, so we just ran rampant.
Did you watch the documentary Rubble Kings
Yes,
on,
I did.
On Netflix?
Amazing,
Amazing.
and I love documentaries like that because it really takes me back to my childhood in New York City. That's how
Yeah.
it fucking was.
By the way, executive produced by Jim Carrey.
Okay, really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Apparently.
it's about.
Wow.
I don't know if people know what it is. It's like about gangs in 1970s New York.
New York, there were a lot of gangs. It was
Yeah.
really like the Warriors. If you guys don't know about the Warriors,
Yeah.
you had gangs in every neighborhood. It wasn't just like Bloods and Crips. And
No, it was like a
Latin
block
Kings. It
by
was
block
block
basis.
by block basis.
Yeah.
It was very territorial, and you could find yourself fucked up.
Yeah.
On the wrong block.
Did you ever get in any trouble in the Bronx?
No, never. Like I was in and out, and
Yeah.
my friends and I were just nimble. We were very lucky.
Yeah.
We were very lucky not.
Well,
to ever
riding
get-
on the outside of trains, first
But
of
also,
all.
I mean, like they're talking about in the documentary, and I mean, maybe you can speak to this, even though you were in Brooklyn, but like how the cops couldn't even get into the Bronx because like when people would shoot and leave bodies in the streets, like the bodies would be left there because people would then shoot the cops who went to go retrieve the bodies
I don't know.
and the ambulances.
I don't know much about that, but I do know the difference in policing is up until the late 80s, cops were very reactive.
Mm-hmm.
They waited for something to happen. And then there weren't a lot of cops on payroll anyway. New York was virtually bankrupt. And it wasn't until a cop got assassinated by the Supreme Team in Queens in the late 80s. That's what set off cops being so proactive.
Yeah.
And zero tolerance and broken windows policy and the whole nine.
Yeah.
I'm not a New York historian, by the way.
So did you grow up and go through like elementary, middle, and high school with the same crowd?
No, so my first through third grade, my school closed at the third grade.
Really?
Got sent to a different school from the fourth to the sixth grade, and then I got pulled out. I went to Catholic school all my life. A Catholic.
Same with us.
Yeah, get out of here. You guys went to Catholic school?
No.
Fuck out of here. So I got sent to this really special school called Robert F. Kennedy Incentive Program in the Ridgewood section of Brooklyn. It's kind of like the border of Brooklyn and Queens. And they took, I guess, the brightest kids from like local Catholic schools, and it was like this kind of like makeshift private school. And what was awesome about it is like there was one sixth grade, one seventh grade, one eighth grade. The year I got there was the first year that they integrated girls into the program. But the greatest thing is like we had a school trip every year in which we would travel to Europe.
Wow.
So in the seventh grade, we went to to Italy.
Really?
And that shit was just, being a city kid and then being exposed to Italy with your peers.
Oh my God.
And I just remember like my mom didn't come. It was optional for parents to come, but I would imagine that it was pretty costly. And to this day, I keep asking my peers, which one of us in the seventh grade snuck weed all the way to Italy? Because I remember just balling in somebody's room, smoking some dirt weed, man, all the way from Brooklyn, to Italiano style. So
It was Sean Price.
And then in the eighth grade, we traveled to Spain. And I think the amazing thing about traveling is when you really start seeing the differences in culture.
Yeah.
So when I went to Italy, I just remember one time watching the television, and there was a commercial, and this woman just went topless.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, shit, but it was nothing.
Right.
And that's when I realized that America might kind of be backwards in terms of like sexuality. And this is in the seventh grade. In the eighth grade, when we went to Spain, our teachers took us to a wine tasting tour, and we got fucked up. Like we drank wine all day in the eighth grade,
Man.
And knowing that you can't do this, I was like, "What's wrong with the States? The States is really backwards." So it's very important to travel. You guys know it's
sure.
really important to travel, particularly as kids, as children.
Yeah. Our eighth grade trip was to Washington.
Washington D.C.
Yeah, we didn't hit.
Yeah, we didn't get fucked up off wine or
didn't smoke that Chiba.
No.
Eighth grade, you coming back from Italy and Spain, you come back with all this sort of worldly, viewpoint at this point. What's high school like for you?
High school, I went to Xavier High School.
Okay.
In Chelsea. All
Go
male,
Tigers.
all male, Jesuit, quasi-military.
Really?
And I made that choice, man. I had the option to go into different schools, but I was like, you know what? I like Xavier. It was a good, prep school in terms of like the Catholic school system. And I kind of felt at the time that I wanted that discipline. I didn't want to be distracted by girls because I knew I could easily be distracted by girls. So I really went for the discipline, and I really enjoyed it, man.
Okay. Were there dances that you would go to?
We had sister schools.
Okay.
And
Because those Catholic girls,
Yeah, they're wild.
they're
They get
wild.
wild.
They're wild.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
wild. They're wild.
because they don't know any better. They don't know what's
They
on the
don't know
outside.
any better. I remember making out in the lobby with this chick because I wanted to impress my boys. And,
Yeah.
just dumb shit like that,
Yeah.
man. But Xavier was cool. I mean, I think it. I think.
Wait,
I've
were they
always-
impressed?
Huh?
Were your friends impressed?
She was kind of ugly, so I don't think they were. But
Yeah.
you the dumb shit you do when you're young.
Right.
But I've always been just pretty focused on education. Just really that's if anything, that's what my mom drilled down, and I always wanted to learn, man. I never wanted to be the dumb kid.
Yeah. Well, what did religion mean to you at that point?
Okay, so I come from the most Catholic family on the planet, in which out of my 5 uncles, 4 of them were Catholic priests.
Wow.
Wow.
And my 2 existing aunts are nuns.
Wow.
So I come from the most Catholic family. So in high school, it started to dawn on me that growing up in such a religious household, it didn't mean anything to me. Mm-hmm. I felt actually between high school and law school, I kind of felt spiritually lost. And I was actually searching for religion, like really hungering for spirituality in my life. And I had looked into the Nation of Islam, because, back in the late 80s, Farrakhan, Public Enemy, that was some spirituality for your ass.
Yeah.
And the shit was dope.
Yeah.
By the way, Eric is nodding like he also.
Eric's like, that's right.
I wanted to be an M1. Like, yeah.
But in my last year of law school, I encountered Buddhism, and that really it fit like a glove. And I've been a practicing Buddhist now for 26 years.
Really?
Yeah, and it's just really changed my life.
And I didn't know that, but that makes so much sense in thinking about like your demeanor, the whole thing. But back to high school for a second.
Yeah.
Like, so Catholic school, they drill that into you, right? I mean, that's part of your curriculum. You're like the whole
God and
sin
and
Jesus
died for our sins, and I guess so. But like I think in our school, as in most Catholic schools, at least from my experience, it's like those were the gut classes. Mm-hmm. Those were the classes you went and you kind of bullshitted your way through, and it was requisite courses because of these Catholic schools, but they weren't. It wasn't like, I think what was really drilled down was discipline. Particularly in an all male school, particularly with I didn't know at the time, but we had some weirdo priests. So it was really just that whole disciplinarian thing, which I was actually seeking out.
And you're a better person because of the discipline.
I think I'm a better person because of that focus on education.
And when it came time to send your kids to school, were you like, they'll make the choice as to whether they want discipline or not?
So my wife, unbelievable Kim,
follow her.
Yep.
She is an amazing private tutor, and she is actually one of the most sought after private tutors in New York City.
Well, because she's making cookies for everybody.
she makes cookies for everyone, but that really she actually grew up in the private school system, and she's really good at navigating students through that system, which I didn't know existed, to the point where some of these schools actually refer her to their students, and she has some pretty impressive clients. I'll tell you guys off air.
Yeah, sure.
Or clients. Justine Skye.
Yeah, no, I was going to say.
She
friend of the podcast.
She homeschooled Justine Skye. She also homeschooled this other band by the name of The Skins.
Okay.
They're signed to Rick Rubin's label.
Oh, wow.
And were managed by what's the Garnier guy from Entourage?
Adrian Grenier. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
Like
sure.
The shampoo.
Yeah.
Fructose.
Yeah. That Memphis Bleak.
So her thing was, we got to get our kids into private school, and I was like, honey, we can't afford this, but she knows how to navigate her way through.
That's awesome.
Schools,
She's unbelievable.
She's unbelievable. Kim.
We just don't know that like that private school life,
dude.
Like,
it's so privileged.
Yeah,
it's like really privileged. Like,
right. What's the admission process like?
You'd have to ask unbelievable Kim.
Yeah.
I just know on the first day that my sons walked in, they all got iPads.
Whoa.
And we're talking about 4 years ago, before I think that started becoming common practice in school.
Sure.
And last year our kids, our 2 eldest sons, flew to China with the school, and so they're they've traveled.
Yeah.
It's just
well, just like their father.
Yeah, just like their father, but it's amazing because the tuition overall is $40,000 a year per student,
Holy
which is
Jesus.
fucking crazy.
That is crazy.
Crazy. So it's frightening to me now, when you hear about this economic divide, this wealth gap,
Yep.
The erosion of the middle class, and then you see where, my kids go to school with these 1%ers.
Yeah.
I mean, 1%ers, and it's just really frightening how prepared these kids are for the future and how unprepared most of these other kids. I don't want to make an assumption, but a lot of kids are unprepared for the future.
Yeah, yeah, most definitely. So, getting to the end of high school,
Yeah.
where are you looking to go to school?
So this is a great story, actually. So it was mid-'80s, and I had an amazing art teacher by the name of Marilyn Minter. Mm-hmm. And Marilyn Minter was kind of like this punked, kind of like drugged out chick from like the downtown scene, but she really touched me with regard to artistry, and got me open into like painting and drawing, and I knew at the time that I was going to be an artist, a visual artist. Mm-hmm. And so that was my favorite class, and at the time I didn't know like she was actually running with Basquiat
Whoa.
Wow.
and Warhol and that downtown crew.
Man.
Can I skip forward?
Please.
Yeah.
To how cool she was?
Yeah,
So, she really inspired me to become an artist. I got into Cornell. She's like, the school sucks, but follow. But you got into Cornell. The fine arts program sucked.
Yeah.
But you're in Cornell right now.
So you can get to that school of agriculture like real easy.
Yeah, and then when I got to Cornell, I just realized how poor, how the fine arts program really sucked.
Yeah.
And I just did a 180, and I decided to go pre-law.
Yeah.
So I had a conversation with her at the time, and she's like, "You're giving up art? Like you're a pussy." Like she went off on me. Hadn't seen her in years, and a couple of summers ago, I'm watching the debut of Jay-Z's Picasso Baby.
Yeah.
And she's in there,
Crazy.
dancing
Oh, wow.
with Jay-Z with credits.
That's awesome.
With credits. So I recently hooked up with her, and she's this thriving artist now in her 70s. She recently did skateboard decks for Supreme.
Wow.
And she's got this ill retrospective going on right now about the Bush, and just bringing back women being very comfortable with their pubic hair.
Yeah.
And so with their pubic hair, and she's just a brilliant. And so we, now that I kind of live this creative life,
Yeah.
she's really proud of me. I keep telling her like, I'm so fucking proud. I never had a teacher that I was so fucking proud of.
Yo, I mean, obviously you know this, but that's so not the average art teacher.
No. And so what's crazy, like to wind this story up, is when I met her for the first time since high school 2 summers ago. I was like, Marilyn Minter, you were such, an inspiration to me. And she's like, Reggie, half the time I was coming to class, I swear to God, I was high off crack.
Oh my God.
I mean, but
Yeah.
because she kind of had to get blazed to come into this like tight Jesuit.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't know the shit was perverted, but she kind of knew.
Sure.
And I don't want to shit on Xavier, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also that's like a day job, and she's hanging out with like,
Yep.
the coolest
The
artists
coolest
around.
artists of the time.
This
Fab
doesn't
Five
really
Freddy and-
excuse crack.
No,
though.
yeah, no,
I feel
you're
like we're
right,
all
you're
making
right.
a lot of excuses
what?
for crack.
I think everyone kind of smoked crack in the mid.
Yeah, but it's
80s,
always been
and
whack, right?
Crack is whack.
Crack is
Yeah.
whack. 2 things.
Yeah.
One is we were on your show.
That
I
was
want to
crazy.
say, well, we've been on your show a few times
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
But the when we put out our mixtape Urbane Outfitters Volume 1 with DJ Drama, we came on and we played you a couple tracks, one of which was our song with Bun B called Girls with the Dirty Souths. And we salute those women who let the bush grow.
Yes, yes,
so we're
yes.
on the same wavelength.
Yeah, you got to
Yes.
see our artwork. It's
No,
really,
I'm sure
it's
we
really
fuck
dope.
with it.
It's
That's
really dope.
awesome.
Yeah.
Second thing is, Jeff was class artist his senior year of high school.
Sure was.
Your art teachers, with all due respect, were definitely not on the same level, right?
No, but she was definitely on crack.
Okay,
so.
She was on crack. She wasn't hanging out with Basquiat.
No, I mean, it's a little further. She was coming in from Westchester.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did you win any awards in high school?
No.
Like
I mean,
like in the yearbook?
no,
when
I
they
just kept it real low. I remember my theater, the guy that ran theater was trying to get me to join theater, and I was like, I'm not fucking, because I just really loved my freedom.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I wasn't part of any athletics. I'd go to school, I'd do my schoolwork, and then I'd go home.
Yeah.
And hang out with my friends on my block. And I remember in my senior year, Father Sullivan pressured my mother to pressure me to join drama.
Really?
And I was like, fuck you, this is fucked up, I don't want to do this shit. And I had the best time.
Oh.
I just really had the best
So
time.
he saw something in you?
He
or?
saw something
Yeah.
in me. And I think, I was always destined to do something creative, something vocal, something expressive.
Yeah.
And, when I made that shift to become a lawyer,
Yeah.
it just all got stifled.
Well, so what brings you to Cornell, to upstate? Like, are you looking for an Ivy League school?
I got into Cornell.
Did you look in any other places?
It's really fucked up, man. I had my guidance counselor, Father McGowan. I realized later on in life that I think he was racist,
Really?
or just biased, or whatever the fuck you want to call it. Because I remember at the time, wanting my first choice, because just of my friends talking about it, I really wanted to go to Syracuse. And he was like, Syracuse is beyond your reach, but you should really aim for Howard. Now, I have nothing against Howard, but I was like, okay. And I really believed him. And then when I got accepted to Cornell, I didn't realize it until a year later. He was really pissed off.
Really?
He was not encouraging at all. He was really pissed off. And it wasn't until when I was at Cornell, some other kids came up to visit, and they were like, yeah, Father McGowan was talking about how some bozo got into Cornell.
That's
So
horrible.
if he had a shot, then they had a shot.
As I'm a Syracuse graduate,
Yeah.
Cornell is far beyond.
Syracuse had the girls.
No,
though,
it did.
And
It
the
did.
parties. And
Yeah.
was it Sky Barn?
Uh,
Sky Barn, right?
yeah, but
Yeah.
like Carrier Dome, like all of
Yes,
that.
yes,
Like
yes.
it was a great time. We had one quad. You guys had like 8,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Huge campus.
Huge campus.
If
Go
the guy's,
Big Red.
If the guy's gorgeous,
Gorgeous.
yeah. But like honestly, for an education, like it's Ivy League. I mean,
Yeah.
it's world renowned,
Yeah.
far beyond. So fuck Father, whatever his name is, McGowan. That's horrible.
Yeah.
And
By
I
the way,
hope.
Father McGowan is a listener of this podcast.
well,
and I wish
Father
that you guys
McGowan
wouldn't.
actually passed on.
Oh, did he really?
And I remember some students, like some alum, were like, we ran into some alum like, yo, did you hear that Father McGowan passed away? And I was kind of drunk. I was like, yo, fuck him. And they all looked at me like I was like a, blasphemy. But like, fuck him. Like, fuck him.
Yeah.
For trying to do that to my dreams.
No, that's
Right,
fucked
yeah.
up.
Wait, question. So the Pope comes to town.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah. You grew up Catholic. What are your thoughts on the Pope coming to town? Did you care at all?
I didn't care at all.
Our mom cared so much.
Really?
Yeah.
My mom cared so much.
Our mom, yeah, but
My family
your-
cared so much.
But our
Yes, but
mom's
they are
like,
Catholic. Our
mom's a Jewish woman who was just.
But he's
like,
a rock. He's like a religious rock star.
He is.
He's
Yeah.
a religious rock
Time
star.
Warner had that like 24-hour channel, and she was
Yep.
just glued to it.
Yep.
Yeah, like
I mean-
our mom was watching the Pope on mute.
For what it's worth, this guy is very progressive.
Sure.
From what I understand.
Yeah.
And is actually softening, I guess, some of the views that the Catholic Church has had on a lot of issues. So,
Listen, our
yeah.
mom just like seeing him in the Pope Mobile
like,
going
the
through Central
Pope-mobile,
Park. You know.
looking like. Did you see the one image where he looked like he was about to drop the illest mixtape?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
The shot with Obama.
yeah,
too?
yeah,
that was dope.
back to back.
Yeah. So you go up to school at Cornell.
Yeah.
What are you expecting to do up there?
I'm expecting to learn.
Okay.
And so I guess the disconnect was my first semester in fine arts. I was not learning anything.
What kind of roommate you have?
I had a really nerdy roommate, and we got into an altercation, and we had to draw straws as to who was going to move out. And he had to move out. So my freshman year, I guess 3-4 months into my freshman year, I had a double,
That's dope.
which was dope. Dope.
Good
you-
choice
did-
against the altercation.
Yeah, did you rig that straw process?
No, I didn't. I was like,
straw poll?
Does that mean he had to move in with 2 other dudes and like they had a triple
I don't know.
in what
I
should have
don't
been
give
a
a
double?
fuck where he had to move, but I had a double, and it was popping.
What was the altercation over?
So he was, I guess, from the Midwest. I'm a city kid.
Yeah.
I like to hang out. He was tight, and then he had some kind of like medical issues also. So he was just annoyed all the time.
Yeah.
And I had a girlfriend, and
Yeah.
it was just like, yo, like we're not getting along at all.
Yeah.
So we brought it to the art. I mean, it wasn't like any type of fist fight,
Right,
anything
yeah.
physical, but
Because he didn't want it.
Well, he also couldn't handle it. He had a medical issue.
He had a medical issue. So I didn't want to like sock him and his neck
No.
twist to the side or some shit. So we, so we spoke to our RA, man, and they resolved it that way, man. And you know, I got the room.
Yeah, and
But going back to your question,
yes,
I felt that like I saw my peers that were like in engineering and agriculture and medicine and pre-law. I saw their minds being challenged, and I'm sitting in these classes with these trust fund kids, like smelling like fucking glue and clay and paint, and I was like, you know what, I felt that I had to soak up. Like I swear, at that young age, I was like, I have to come here and soak up some education.
Did your parents have any expectations on what you should do with your career?
First generation American, first to go to college. My parents were like, you go to college.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it. Like
yeah.
that's it.
Yeah.
Like, we don't know, you know. So I was pretty aimless. I didn't have any aim. I didn't have any guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck Father McGowan.
Fuck Father McGowan. And then I happened to come home one day during break, and I saw one of my cousins who was a Park Avenue attorney at the time. I saw his pay stub, and I was like, fuck it, I'm going to law school.
Whoa. Did you have the idea too that you were going to, like, law school means another 3 years?
Yes.
And you were like totally for it?
I was like, I want that check.
Yeah.
I want that
And whatever
check.
it takes to get there, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
So you decide that like freshman year?
Freshman year,
Wow.
after my first semester.
Wow.
And I decided to transfer, and it was painful. It was so fucking painful. Just getting acclimated to the coursework, and you know, I'm now in. I totally skipped like the 101s. I'm in statistics.
Yeah.
102 and econ and all of this shit. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
I'm not ready for this shit. So I actually almost failed out.
Well, you're going from left brain all the way to right brain.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was like, but I persevered.
Yeah.
And I had some good friends who had some great study habits, and I just really adapted to what they were doing, so that by junior year I had a hang of it, and then by senior year I was soaring.
That's dope.
Yeah,
How are you getting up and back to Ithaca?
we'd rent a car.
Okay.
And, we'd all chip in and rent a car. And,
Yeah,
and drive
yeah.
back and forth.
Yeah.
But Ithaca's beautiful, man, and
It
coming
is.
from New York, I mean, we're in New York State.
Yeah.
Right.
We're 4 hours away.
Yep.
But New York is still accessible. It's still New York. So, and at the time, Cornell had a really strong inner city recruitment program. So there were a lot of kids from Brooklyn, a lot of kids from Harlem, a lot of kids. So we had our community that I was able to identify with.
Sure.
And not get swallowed up into the general greater Cornell population.
Did you ever make any trips out of the colleges, like while at school? Were you
We
guys
used
road
to go to
tripping?
Syracuse. A
Yeah,
lot.
okay, yeah.
Syracuse had the babes, man. Syracuse had the women and the parties. But Binghamton, Buffalo, Utica,
Sure.
that whole up
Yeah.
Sounds so glamorous.
It wasn't, but it was fun, man. Upstate
Yeah,
in the winters are just harsh.
Yeah.
But I just love being away from New York at the time, and that's when I was in college was really when the crack epidemic was starting to hit.
Yeah.
So every time I would come back to Brooklyn, shit would shift. Like I was like, why are my friends on the corner right now?
Yeah.
Like, why are my friends that I grew up with, that we played with G.I. Joes and Matchboxes, why are they on the corner? And why are they carrying guns?
Yeah.
And I'd go back to school and come back and like, wait, who are those 20 other motherfuckers that are on the corner? So I grew up in the Crown Heights section of Brooklyn, on Lincoln Place between Albany and the legendary Troy Avenue.
Yep.
Like I grew up on Troy Avenue.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I understand what Troy Ave is trying to emulate because that was like a main vein of the crack trade back in the day in Brooklyn.
Yeah. So you come back and everything's changed.
A lot.
And
A lot.
how do you associate with the same guys you grew up with?
Loose. Like, some kids were, not every kid was a hustler.
Right.
But the ones that were destined to be hustlers were hustlers, and I stayed cool with everybody. But I didn't stay on the block, because now, I'm in college, I'm coming back, and I'm starting to discover the New York nightlife, the New York club scene, which is all in Manhattan.
Yeah, yeah.
All in Manhattan, the Paradise Garage,
Yep.
and just Bentleys and all these other legendary clubs that existed in New York at the time. So I barely stayed in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
You know, I did all my hanging out in the city.
Yeah.
Is it weird to see like the shift like that Brooklyn is going through now, where it's just like, I mean, I'm sure it is. I already know the answer to this question. But I mean, like, I guess talk about what it was like, you know, to see Brooklyn.
So my wife is really happy about all this, you know, aggressive gentrification going on, because she's like, we miss growing up. My wife's also a native Brooklynite. She's like, we miss being able to hang out in Brooklyn.
Right.
Whereas our kids, my eldest son is 18. I have my other son is 17, and my youngest son is 13. They never had a fight in their lives. I don't know if that's rare to you, but to me, it's like they never had a fight.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that. And they hang out with their friends, and they have a cool crew, and there's like all these cool spots right now, and it's safe. And I actually feel a lot safer with my kids going out, hanging out in New York, in Manhattan or Brooklyn or whatever. I feel safe for the most part, where, you know, back then it was not safe.
Yeah.
So, pardon me, I do embrace that aspect of the change in New York. But then with that, I'm really worried about, you know, my kids now. To me, they're still babies, but they don't look like babies. My 13-year-old is 6'1", and he looks like a black man. And it's like, to me, he's a baby, and it breaks my heart that at any given moment, a cop might stop him and ask him to identify himself, which has happened, actually.
Really?
Yeah.
So
Because he goes to private school, and, you know, the days that public schools are in session and private schools aren't, and they see him walking around,
Right.
they don't assume that he goes to private school.
So what was that conversation like with him?
That conversation we've been having that conversation with our kids since, like, they're fighting over like some stupid toy at 3 or 4, and like, this is not fair, like, life's not fair, and so we drilled that into our kids at an early age.
Yeah.
We're really progressive about not shying away from that issue.
Yeah. So you coming back to a city that's changed, you're on your way through college, you know you're going to law school.
No, I'm going to law school.
Where are you looking at law school?
So I got the notion, and this is a great story.
Yeah.
This is a fucking great story. So at the time, I read somewhere that the top law school was Georgetown.
Okay.
So I was like, fuck it. I'm going to Georgetown.
Right.
You wanted sports.
I wanted the number one spot.
Yeah.
For what I was just aggressive like that.
Yeah.
And just aggressive, and once again, not, you know, no guidance, but just really moving on, you know, what I'm hearing and impression. And like, if I'm going to law school, I might as well go to the number. And at the time, the Hoyas were
sure,
fucking amazing.
Yeah.
You know, so I applied to Georgetown. I applied to some other safe schools also. I got into all the other safe schools. I didn't get into Brooklyn Law.
Really?
I didn't get into Brooklyn Law, but I got waitlisted for Georgetown. And I didn't know what that meant. I thought that was like, you're in, but you're not in, but you're in.
Yeah.
So my uncivilized ass, I just started picking up the phone and harassing the dean of students. Like, dude, I got to get in.
Yeah.
Dude, I got to get in. So I'm doing this all throughout my last semester of law school. Fuck it, I'll tell the story. So I'm riding through the summer, and I'm like, you know what? If I don't get into Georgetown, I'm gonna put all these other schools on pause. I'm gonna work the year and just take the LSATs again and reapply. So it's fucking the first week in August. I'm at this nightclub called the Paradise Garage, which was a nightclub that opened its doors at midnight and closed its doors at noon. So it was like, this is New York in the 80s.
Yeah.
And so they didn't have a liquor license, but it was an open air club with regard to whatever else you could bring in there.
Yeah.
So I am specifically tripping off of mescaline. Like, I'm fucking seeing lights, and I'm tripping, and it's just like, so I run into my high school friend.
Father McGowan.
No, not fuck Father McGowan. Run into my high school friend, Sam Galloway. And Sam is with his girlfriend from Connecticut. And he's like, yo, Reg. He's in the garage. His girlfriend is in the garage. It's like 4 a.m. I'm tripping. He's like, yo, what are you doing next year? And I was like, and he decided he was going to be a state trooper.
Okay.
And I was like, dude, I'm trying to get into law school. I'm trying to get into Georgetown. These motherfuckers don't want me to live. I can't. They're not letting me live. I'm on this wait. I'm trying to. So his girl says, wait a minute. My aunt dates the dean of students. And then I fucking sobered up. And I was like, get the fuck out of here. So this is Friday night, Saturday morning. Sunday night, I'm on the phone with her aunt. Monday, I'm on the phone with the dean of students.
Are you on
Yo.
mescaline still?
Friday, I drive down to Georgetown. We have an interview. He shakes my hand. That following Monday, Western Union, I'm in Georgetown.
Yo.
2 weeks before classes start. Now,
That's awesome.
what's really awesome is this dean took a big risk with me. And then
Okay.
he hadn't heard of me since I graduated from high school. I'm jumping around now. Last June, I got tapped to give the keynote speech at the Howard Law School
Yes.
Right.
Commencement ceremony. And as I'm walking in, I bump into my dean. And he's like, hey, what are you... And I'm in like full regalia and the whole nine. He's like, what are you doing here? And I'm like, oh my God. So I get up on stage to give this speech. And I was like, not only do I have to inspire the students, but I really want to show this guy that he really made the right choice. Like he didn't fuck up that one gamble.
Yeah.
And then we just connected after that. He was like, dude, you blew me away. This was amazing.
That's incredible.
And so now I think his son-in-law is trying to get into music. And he's like, can you look out for my son-in-law? So I've been. So
And you said no.
No. He's been to the Combat Jack Show studio.
Yeah.
And it's just that whole concept of paying it forward and then paying it back.
Yeah.
I totally subscribe to
Yeah.
that. And also, like, how about just the sort of serendipity of you running into your dude and his girls there, and like all this sort of comes together.
I totally believe in the power of determination, man. Like if you are determined to do something, like shit, the universe conspires on your behalf to make that shit happen. Because I've witnessed it time and time and time again.
Here's something we really want you to retell, because you told us this. I think it's early in your law career.
Yeah.
Can you tell the story about the sauna?
Diddy.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Diddy's ice cold, man. Like Diddy's the best that ever did it. I think for my generation, Diddy's the best that ever did it.
Yeah.
For so many different reasons. But I remember my partner at the time, Ed Woods. We kept trying to have a meeting with Puff. Now we knew Puff's attorney. We knew that we didn't have a shot at representing Puff. But we just wanted to get in that circle. And here's this young black guy. Here's these young black attorneys. We're in the same clubs. He sees us. We see him. We're at the same parties. It's like, yo, Puff, just throw us one of your clients, man. Can we get Big? Can we get Craig Mack? Can we get Mace? We wanted to be in that universe. So we'd been chasing Puff down for like about 6 months. And finally, he's like, all right, fuck it. Meet me at the 10th Street bathhouse. You guys familiar with the bathhouse?
No.
It's this Turkish bathhouse.
It's like the Sky Barn in
Syracuse.
Syracuse.
No, it's not like the Sky Barn. It's this old. It looks like a dungeon, and it's got these old Hasidics in there. And then, at the time, it was really cool because Russell would hang out there, and Andre Harrell, hence Puff, and
Sure.
LL Cool J, and John Amos, and it was just like this. And actually, the late JFK Jr. Like it was
Okay.
just this real cool place, and it's still one of the few remaining gems in New York City.
It's still there?
It's still there, and it's great massages, great schwitzes. It's just it's ill. It's ill, and it's still relatively affordable.
And, okay. Yeah. So anyone can go there.
Anyone can go there. You
Okay.
can just get up there and go there, and I think it's like $40 for general access, and then a different pay schedule, for a fee for massages, but it's still there.
Yeah.
By the way, this podcast is now sponsored by
10th Street Turkish Bathhouse. So anyway, so we're in there, like we go in there, me and my former partner, and so there's this one big ass room called the Radiant Room. And it's like the biggest room in there. It's like the main attraction, and these fucking guys are in there whipping other people with like with grape leaves or some shit like that. It's just
Sure.
it's just crazy.
Yeah.
You
But
were
it's-
not high on mescaline at this
This is
time.
like-
it was all
this is like
sweated
a
out.
bacchanal.
But it's so fucking hot in there. So Puff decides he wants us to meet him in the hottest fucking room. And he, Puff, when you're talking to Puff, he mumbles. and you can't hear him. So it's this steam going on. It's fucking torture. And he's like, yeah. So we're leaning into him, and the shit was torturous. And me and Ed were like, yo, whatever we do, don't run out. Whatever you do, show Puff you could stand
Stick it
that
out.
heat.
Yeah.
Yo, 5 minutes in, I run out. man, 'cause it's too fucking hot. I run in, Ed Woods is running out, and fucking Puff is cool as a fan. And I think he was really fucking with us, but we rode it through, and then that really began the beginning of a great relationship. Man.
So from there, you link up with the Hitmen.
The Hitmen. Well, we had Derek Angeletti and Ron Lawrence, but then we get Nasheem Merrick and Harv Pierre, which is Puff's right hand man for forever, and Puff referred a young Stevie J to us, and Mario Winans, and just that whole.
You got the whole roster.
We had the whole roster.
Yeah.
Which was an amazing run. Just like, being in the studio and watching Big perform. Record Hypnotize.
Ugh.
Just
Did you know Biggie from Brooklyn at all?
I
or
didn't
no?
know Biggie at all from Brooklyn. I knew Biggie from Puff. And I was one of those. We were one of those early cats that received like the early pre album cassette of Ready to Die, and we were like, oh shit,
Yeah.
it's.
You should leak that. Yeah.
Well, how do you? Well, man,
Dub
anyway.
it or something.
Yeah, yeah.
Yo, wait. How do you get into entertainment law in the first place? Like, why are you doing that and you're not doing
It's
like?
all serendipity.
Okay.
It's all serendipitous. So my cousin, whose check I saw,
Yeah.
who worked at the Park Avenue firm while I was in law school, he became the general manager for Andre Harrell's fledgling Uptown.
Dope.
And so I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think the music industry was real. You saw Russell Simmons from afar building this Def Jam empire, but I didn't know what the fuck Uptown was. So I was like, yeah, whatever. You're starting a label. Cool. So I remember being in school at Georgetown and watching some video show and watching I'll Be Sure.
Yeah.
Performing his video day and night on the city rooftops. And I was like, that's Uptown Records. Oh, shit, that's real. So one thing I have a great knack for being is I can be a fucking pest. I can stalk the
Well,
shit out
you
of
and Diddy.
Me and Diddy, yeah. So I started pestering the shit out of my cousin. Like, dude, get me in. Dude, get me in. Dude, get me in. Dude, get me in.
Yeah.
And like the dude was ducking me. He was not returning my calls. But the summer that I graduated from law school, one day he called me. He was like, yo, I think there's an opening for an intern in the legal department at Def Jam. And I was like, fuck. And then that changed my whole fucking life, man.
Amazing.
So we had Clark Kent on the podcast.
Yes.
Um,
Super DJ Clark.
Yes.
Just
who
the
gave
greatest.
like some crazy stories. But I looked online after the episode came out, and I was like thinking like, oh, nobody's ever told these stories before. And then I saw that you had told a bunch of the stories.
Okay.
On
Well, we were-
Complex. Yeah. So like, you were around for the Shine story.
Yes.
When-
I made the Shine story happen.
You did.
I was
when he got signed.
Right.
Right, because there was a second story that Clark told about the mixtape being thrown out the window.
I don't remember that one.
It's when he
Clark
played-
introduced-
Yeah, he played Shine's music.
Yeah, his demo 4J.
Right.
And Shine left, and they started driving off, and Jay took the CD and chucked it out the window.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And apparently he was rhyming over all of Jay-Z instrumentals.
Well, it's kind of ill because Clark referred Shine to me. And I remember being in the office one day, like early in the morning, and fucking Shine calls. And he's like, no, I was referred to you by Clark. And he starts rhyming. So what's weird is initially he had the same cadence as Jay-Z.
Yeah.
But he sounded like Biggie.
He didn't sound like Biggie yet. To me, my first listening to Shine,
Yeah.
he sounded like Jay.
Crazy.
And then the next time I heard him, he sounded like Big. So I was like, you're like this fucking
Cypher.
Chameleon.
chameleon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you get a lot of referrals like
I
soon after you started? Were people like hungry and looking like just for any
we
in?
got a lot of referrals, and I think that's based on the fact that we were like, so coming into the music industry in 1989 as a young attorney, like Harry Allen dubbed me like Ground Zero, like the hip hop attorney.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
Because I grew up in that culture. And
Yeah.
I knew the culture. So being around all these creatives who were like, he gets the music, he's in the clubs, he's
Yeah.
in the studios.
He's
we
on
feel-
mescaline. Yeah.
No, the mescaline thing that was before, man. Don't do that. Don't do that, man. But they just felt comfortable, and we spoke the same language, and we were learning all this legalese and what the deals were at the same time. So it was kind of like a coming of age for that class,
Yeah.
that hip hop class of
Right.
like '90. So Damon,
Oh, yeah.
like Clark brought us Damon, who had been my client way before he started running with Jay-Z.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
and Ski Beats and once again Ron Lawrence and Derek Angeletti, Two Kings in a Cypher. I did that. That was like
Yeah.
my first rap deal. So like seeing this emerging business,
Yeah.
and being around all these people that would eventually become something in the industry was crazy, man. A special time.
And you would run into everyone like late
Anywhere.
at night at the club, like
Dude, I remember running into Tupac on Broadway. Like it was just you'd see it didn't even have to be at night.
Yeah,
it's like,
yeah.
we our
Was he
offices-
in Cats?
No, he was not in Cats. He was with the late Stretch, and they were just running around,
Yeah.
eating hot dog, from the carts, and you'd see everyone.
yeah.
And the hottest place, though, I guess Ground Zero was like the hottest place was in front of the Universal building, which was at the time I think Uptown, and Puff was always out there, and Puff always had that energy. Even before he popped, he always had that energy. So you'd always want to see what was going on in front of the Universal building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With Universal Building on like 50.
17 what, on 57th and Broadway.
There were. See, it's always weird to me that like clubs used to like exist in Midtown. Like that Midtown used to be cool.
Yeah. Well, Midtown was cool, but downtown was always the coolest.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
Downtown was really
But like Studio 54
but
was.
Studio 54
Not that it was like a
wasn't
cool place,
It wasn't
but it
cool.
was just that.
It was established.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
It was Times Square of today.
Yes.
But downtown was always the cool spots, man.
Yeah. But you became the guy.
We became at the
Or
time.
the guys,
Well, we
like-
were the guys because we were actually challenging the power structure at the time.
Yeah.
The state Jewish firms that had a chokehold on the industry, and all of a sudden, these young black hip hop kids,
Yeah.
who had the credentials,
Yep.
and had the clients. So
Right.
I mean, I told this story years ago about how I got into a shouting match with Lior. Over Clark Kent, and he said some crazy shit like, "You don't know who I am. I could fucking erase you from this business." Like, yo, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
It was just a gut reaction. And after I hung up, I was like, "Fuck,
Yeah.
I fucked up my career." Because Lior, you don't fuck with Lior.
Right.
And then a couple months later, we happened to pick up this new MC by the name of DMX.
Yeah.
And Lior is calling us like, "Dude, I made a mistake. Can we come and sit down and break bread?" And it's crazy, man. Just the leverage that we had without even knowing
Yeah.
that we had that leverage.
Well,
Wait, first. So all these rappers will talk about, like, they'll brag about having Jewish lawyers.
Yes.
Does that ever bother you, being a Haitian American?
Initially it did,
Yeah.
and then it became cliche. But sometimes I'd hear that, and I'd be like, "Yo, dude, like, we're commanding a good percentage of these deals out in New York City. What the fuck are you guys talking about?"
Yeah.
But I mean,
Did you ever consider switching to Judaism?
no, because I was
Yeah.
I'm a happy Buddhist.
going back to like the college thing, when
Yeah.
you switched up and you're like, the arts, I'm going to put that off
Yeah.
and I'm going to get into like,
This whole other, and
The
this is
law
where
and
this
the-
is where the discipline comes in again.
yeah.
This is where the discipline comes in about this shit is impossible. This shit is crazy, but I could hunker down and just.
But do you get that creative release from being in the music industry now and being around the Jays and the Ski Beats and the DMXs and all them?
I thought I was.
Even at the time, though.
I thought I was, but
Until you weren't.
I was still miserable
Right.
because, developing what is the legal is the what, right side.
Uh-huh.
Developing that, I remember just my brain and my thought patterns shifting in
Yeah.
law school, and I just never loved the whole delving into contracts. I never loved the whole negotiations because to me it was just unless you had certain attorneys where you had kind of like rhythm with. I just hated that combative. I hated like the whole reptilian aspect of
Right.
like, I'm gonna fuck you over,
Right.
or you're gonna fuck me over,
Right.
And then as the stakes got higher, as our clients became people that commanded amazing deals, I just hated that pressure.
Yeah.
And one of the, I lost Jay-Z early on in his career. Actually, we had been running around with Jay-Z for about 4 or 5 years, knocking on every door. I remember when Leor said no. I remember when everyone in the industry said no. We did the Reasonable Doubt deal with Penalty. He popped, and I lost him as a client. So that killed my fucking confidence.
Yeah.
It killed my confidence. So I got real nervous with developing clients 4 or 5 years into the game, and when they popped, it was like, oh shit, are they still my client? Like I developed that kind of like, I don't know, it was just fucked up. My confidence was fucked up, and I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
Like I was making money, I was doing these great deals, and at the time, it was easy to get a deal. Like we did deals with bum rappers every fucking day.
Right.
20, 30,000 coming in like every other week, every other month.
Yeah.
But it was like I just got tired of that shit, and I felt that at any given point I would be exposed for being a fraud. That's how.
But isn't that how everybody feels about everything? I feel like everybody has that feeling of like being exposed.
It's so
Or the fear of being exposed.
It's so crazy because what I do right now, I think it really just comes so natural to me. I'm not about the hype, but I don't think I'm the best interviewer at all. But I feel what I do, I'm the best at what I do, and I can really say that without the hype, with confidence.
Yeah.
And my interviews are so honest.
Yep.
That how can I be a fraud?
Well,
First of all, our interviews are so good.
Yeah, you guys are so fucking hot.
yo, but before we pivot to that,
I'm sorry.
Can you give us one good DMX story?
Can you give us 12 good DMX stories?
I mean, DMX would knock Def Jam execs out. Like he was unstable, but then you'd sit with DMX and he would just philosophize about shit. And I'm like, this dude is like fucking, like he's blessed. Like he had this incredible energy. I don't have a specific DMX story. It's just like once he got on a roll talking, like you could tell that he, there was talks back then that he wanted to become a reverend or a preacher.
Yeah.
He had that charisma. Like DMX, if you can remember or imagine, DMX was so hot that he was the only artist that Jay-Z stayed out of his. Like he made sure to kiss DMX's ring because DMX was that red hot.
Until he was
that crazy.
president, and then he was able to axe him. So.
Yeah, but he was president, and at that
yeah.
time, DMX was on the decline as
You're
well.
right. So
Yeah.
you knew D and Wah back then,
Yes.
and what were they like? Like sort of early Rough Riders.
Just
era.
don't fuck with them. Like they were very serious about their business. They had this kind of like militant black Muslim type of I guess sheen to them, but they were about their business.
Yeah.
They were about their business, and they just came in from nowhere. Just like the Rough Riders, we're going to change this whole shiny suit sensibility.
Yeah.
And here comes fucking X with bad tattoos and the fucking dog chain, followed by Eve, and it was just a whole.
Did you wear shiny suits?
Yeah. Fuck yeah.
Where'd you get them from?
57th Street, like there were all these men.
I'm telling you, 57th Street's popping.
57th Street
57th
was
Street popping.
All these gaudy men's suit shops we would go in. This is crazy, man. With the
I
big
used to-
shoulders and
I used to wear my bar mitzvah jacket inside out.
really.
It
Oh.
had the satin
Was
inside.
it crisscross? Were
Yo,
were
something
yeah.
like that.
crisscross era or
It was lit.
it was lit.
It was lit.
Yo. So
Wait, I wanted. Can you tell Theta's story?
I barely remember it. Do you remember Theta Sandiford? She used to work at Def Jam and like on the digital
I remember
side.
her name.
I
remember her and I remember her name, but I don't remember.
Yeah.
She took us out one time and she was like, "Oh man, I have a crazy DMX story." DMX was doing a music video and he wasn't showing up, right? And so like hours go by, and at a certain point, Leor has to go up to his house in Yonkers to go get him.
Yeah.
and I don't remember the specifics, but I do remember that Lior had to contend with DMX's dogs to the point that DMX's dogs ended up going to the video shoot with DMX and Lior.
Yeah.
I think I remember hearing something like that.
Okay. Look,
DMX was really attached to his dogs.
yo,
Apparently.
I mean,
He needed them at the
One,
shoot.
One Love Boomer,
and
right?
then there's no one like him. By the way,
No,
like,
no one
that's-
like him.
I think that's what's amazing.
I
about
interviewed him once, and I started talking to him about like he used to drive through Harrison in Westchester, which is our town, and he would get pulled over, and he would then have to go to the court, which is where everybody in my high school would like ditch class and go see DMX in court.
Really?
Yeah.
That was like the
Look, I mean,
pastime. Like,
Yeah.
let's go see DMX.
It's like,
in
yo,
court,
you know, he's
dude.
gonna get pulled
Every
over
every
like,
couple
he
weeks.
just-
It's like
he's driving without a license. Like, it's bound to happen.
Yo,
like,
DMX was one of the greatest, man.
Yeah.
You know,
So, okay. Everyone knows, I think at this point, your switch over to podcasting and the road that you have traveled and how really legendary in podcasting you have made things,
You
right?
think so?
I do. I
Okay,
do. I
thank
think
you.
you've really made your mark.
Thank
I
you.
think longevity, consistency, level of guests, and the conversations. I think all
Thank you,
those
man.
things together
Yeah,
are
thank
pretty
you.
pretty epic. I want to know what it's like to have Damon Dash, to have Wah come back. They see you now and they're just like, oh my God, it's Reggie, but it's Combat Jack.
Right.
What's that like after all these years to have him come back in your life and have a conversation?
it's like a reunion, man. It's definitely like a reunion. You know, particularly with Damon Dash, like we've like our relationship has been hot and cold. But knowing Damon and seeing that look in his face, like, yeah, I'm proud of what you're doing.
That's great.
And knowing full well, knowing Damon, knowing to get out of his way, as opposed to going, because I don't think anyone could go head on with Damon.
Yeah.
I'd love to hear an argument between Damon and Starr. Like, that's what I want to hear. I would pay good money to see both
Right,
of them
right.
argue over a point. But like, you get out of their way, and then just it's kind of respectful. I think what I do is there's a recognition. And it's really just it's like I said, it's a reunion. It's like a conversation. It's not an interview.
Yeah.
We're going over memories. I mean, I do have my questions, but it's kind of like a cheat code, man.
Yeah.
It really.
How
is
do
a
you
cheat
prep
code.
for an interview?
I prep like
Yeah.
crazy. So I just interviewed Norman Lear,
Yep.
and the last thing that he wrote was a 700-page autobiography.
Wow.
And so I read it. I read the whole thing from cover to cover, and then I started looking for interviews. And
Well, how long before before actually interviewing him did you line it up?
that was lined up a couple of months ago, so I was able, but I procrastinated until the week before and then read it. So like, I read everything
Yeah.
that I can, particularly if it's their memoirs. Darryl Strawberry came through. I
Yeah.
read the book. Luke came. I read. And
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
this discipline comes once again from law school, and
Sure.
then I just look at every angle. I look at other interviews. I try to see. I don't try to go over the same questions, but I kind of try to go into the spaces where those questions were left.
Yeah.
If you can understand. 'Cause
Sure.
It's like preparing for battle in a sense.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
And I kind of want to bring old points, go into new points, and so I just really sequester myself. I'm like, I tell my wife I don't want to be fucked with.
Yeah.
I don't want. You tell my team,
Yep.
like, don't call me during the day that I'm preparing, and I just really immerse myself in their world.
How did Dallas Penn used to prepare for an interview?
Dallas was brilliant, so I don't think Dallas ever prepared. Dallas was just, he was just.
How did you guys
spontaneous.
connect?
Dallas, okay, so I loved Dallas's blog
Yeah.
during the great hip hop blog renaissance
Yeah.
of 05, 06.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I was a fan of Dallas Penn's, and Dallas Penn was a fan of my blog at the time. But, no one knew how I looked, but I knew how Dallas looked. So I remember being.
Well, Dallas has quite a look.
Yeah, and he was really, open with putting his images up on his blog at the time. So I remember being at a party, and I was clean. It was my wife and I. It was a friend of ours, Rachel Goldstein. It was her birthday, and so in the back was the VIP. So we were walking in the back, but in the front it was just like the regular cats. It was the fuck, I forget the bar at the time. They just closed it recently. Anyway, so I'm clean. I come in with my wife, and I see Dallas at the bar, and I'm like, I know who you are. And he's like, well, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, excuse me, and I just go into VIP.
Yo.
Come back, he's still out there. I'm like, dude, I know who the fuck you are. He's like, so he just gives me this weird look, and I keep like fucking with him, keep going into the VIP where he has no access. And I think maybe the third or fourth time I was like, yo, Dallas Penn Combat Jack. And he was like, oh shit, let me get the digits, blah, 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 blah. So we exchange numbers. And I think it's the very next week, the motherfucker calls me at midnight. And he wakes up the whole fucking household.
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, I'm gonna have to curve this guy because this guy is weird.
Right.
But we just start building and building. And if it weren't for Dallas Penn, I wouldn't have the Combat Jack show because A King, our producer, was a programming director at PNC, now defunct PNC Radio, online radio station, and he approached Dallas Penn to do an online radio show. Dallas was like, yo, Reg, do you want to do this radio show? I was like, I sat on the fences for a while and finally was like, fuck it, let's do it. Let's do the Dallas Penn Combat Jack show. He's like, no, it's going to be the Combat Jack show. And he pushed me in front of him, and then it became the Combat Jack show.
Man.
So if it weren't for Dallas Penn, I wouldn't be doing this.
Why has Dallas not rocked with the show the entire time?
Dallas has to do his own thing.
Okay.
Dallas is unbridled genius.
Did you understand that he had to do his own thing the entire time?
I always knew, but I just never knew when. He would, and you know, Dallas. My history with Dallas is Dallas has quit the show like 3-4 times.
Yeah.
And always left me kind of like, fuck, you can't do this to me. You know? And the last time he did it, I was like, I'm good. Like I really got to the point where it was like I'm good. Like I had prepared myself. I had gotten the confidence and the legs and the track record was like I'm good.
Yeah.
But Dallas is you know one of the sharpest minds that I've ever met. And then his knowledge of New York City.
Yeah.
His knowledge of black history. His knowledge of things, like his knowledge of architecture. Like he's a smart, his knowledge of breaking into cars. You know, his knowledge of, you know, polos and this.
By the way, that's the best like run of things that he knows. And then just like, I love that you throw breaking in cars like just in there.
Because he used to break into cars.
Yeah,
I mean, he was a professional. I don't want to say professional, but he was a professional car thief. You know,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Dallas is amazing. Like he's just all these worlds that you shouldn't be an expert at. He's that. You know, I love Dallas Penn, man. Like,
Yeah.
And
I saw him the other night.
Yeah. The many iterations the Combat Jack show has gone through, you've ended up now you're on a pretty good streak with you and Premium Pete.
Yes.
You and Pete didn't always get along.
No.
Can you talk about that?
We're going through something right now.
Okay.
I mean, you know, because Pete wasn't supposed to be on the show.
Right.
And Pete forced his way onto the show, and I fought that for so many years. And then once Dallas officially left, it was like, it's me and you, Pete, and we just rocked. And
Yeah.
so the past year and a half, it's been Pete and I.
Yeah.
I'm surprised that you say that he I don't know if wasn't welcome would be like the right way to describe it. But
Well,
like
the thing was,
but yours always felt like basically like anybody who's in the room has a microphone.
well, no, I think
For a
that's
time.
what everyone felt.
Right.
Yeah.
Everyone in the room felt they had access to the microphone.
Yeah.
But what I had sketched out was it was Dallas, myself, and A King, and whatever guests we had. Initially, we didn't have guests, so
Yeah.
you know, as we opened up the format to having guests, it was us three. NY Delight at the time, who was
Sure.
one of our co-hosts.
Yep.
And that was it.
And then,
but then you
DJ
had,
Ben
like,
Hameen.
Ben
right?
Hameen asked me one day, he's like, can I DJ on your show? I was like, sure. And I'm like, motherfucker, stay on the fucking turntables. Get off the mic.
Yeah.
And then you had Matt Raz
Matt
popping
Raz,
in
who
and
I
out.
actually pushed. I pushed Matt Raz because he was just so, his voice was just so in contrast
Yeah.
to all the other voices that I thought that added. And then, you know, Just Blaze was like, yo,
Yeah,
dude,
Just
can I
Blaze.
be on this show? I was
Yeah.
like, what?
Yo, you had
And
a
then
whole
Jean
collection.
Grey.
Gene Gray, we went through this
This is
whole.
like it's just like your own like just crew. I
Yeah,
mean, you guys
it's
are
like a
Wu-Tang.
Simpsons episode. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Wu-Tang, that's a better
But
reference.
you know, I mean, I think that's, you know, I look forward to finding my groove, and then I look forward to changing that groove.
Yeah.
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 You know,
Yeah.
consistently, because you know,
I think it's the same with
times
us.
Yeah, we know
change.
that too, yeah.
You guys know
Yeah,
that.
I mean, look, once, the times do change, and
Right.
like,
And you're
once
not going to
people-
stop because shit changes.
No, we describe
No,
ourselves
we're
as
gonna
like,
stop because once something becomes popular, then we stop doing it.
yeah, we're like the Buddhists who like they paint with sand and then
Right.
blow it away because it's all about the process.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
who we are.
That's who you guys
know?
are.
You know?
It's too hot right now. Let's move.
I know. Yeah,
I mean, basically every single time that we've done like anything that's become popular.
Yeah.
Like the sketches, the.
Why is that?
I think
it's
that-
a fear of success.
I don't
Really?
know. It's no.
No.
What
no,
is it?
No. Honestly, I think it's just to stay ahead of the curve.
Right. That's hard to do.
It is.
man.
And by the
Yeah.
way, we never wanted to do like sketches forever. And the cool thing now is like if we get stopped on the street or people see us in an elevator or a train or something like that, and they're just like, "Yo, I think your sketches were the best thing you ever did." Or other people were like, "The MTV interviews, those are the best things you ever did." Or people were like, "Yo, your music, that's the best thing you ever did. Like, do more of that,
Right,
or
right,
that."
right.
And like that's cool for us. Like
Yeah.
that different people can like different things.
But
And like
you guys haven't stopped though. Like,
No.
you guys continue
No.
to move, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
you guys
well-
have to continue. You have to continue moving.
also, see, we're a lot alike in that we're very persistent, we're very focused and determined, and like we could never stop. We could never stop moving forward
Right,
because
right.
like if we did, like we're done.
It's done.
You know, and we still got to go down to like see our relatives at Thanksgiving,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know, and
yeah.
like have some sort of answer as
Right,
to what
right.
we're doing.
Yeah, what are you guys doing?
You're so successful in all these iterations. You've had so many amazing guests. The Ice-T episode was legendary.
Ice-T was- yeah.
Your Just Blaze and Damon Dash confrontation was
Oh
just
my God.
unforgettable.
Oh my God.
Kevin
Your-
Gates 1 and 2.
Yo.
Kevin, did you like part 2?
I haven't listened yet.
It's I like Kevin Gates.
Yeah.
and
He just
and-
got
married.
He
Yeah.
just got married, and there's something hypnotizing about the dude. Like he just pulls me into his world.
Yeah.
and I just really, I want to figure him out. Like, and he allows me that room to try to figure him out. So it's kind of like this weird dance that Kevin and I have that I'm really grateful to have, because I didn't know who the fuck Kevin Gates was a year ago.
Who
Yo.
booked him on your thing?
The label. They were like, this is one of those rare instances where the label was like,
They were right.
Can you do a favor for us? And I was like, yeah, fuck it. I'll
Wow.
do that. So I was kind of like, just like I prepared like, probably like the least I ever prepared for an interview.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, this dude
Is fascinating.
is fascinating.
Yeah.
And that became, it wasn't supposed to be an episode on its own. I
Yeah.
was like, we went
Oh.
and it became an episode on its own.
Do you like his music?
I like his music. I do like his music.
Okay.
I mean,
I very much like his music.
Yeah.
He's charismatic.
Isn't it funny, by the way, for people who don't think that like showing your personality and going on shows like this or doing funny sketches or whatever, what have you, that helps you sell yourself is
Well, but you're talking. I mean,
because
it depends on who
yeah,
you are.
there's a lot of people who are afraid of it because they don't have that.
no, I
Yes.
know, but for me as a consumer, there's a lot of times where I'll watch an interview or like someone will sit here and I'll be like, you know what, I like you so much, I want to like give you that second look.
Right,
Yeah,
exactly.
But
And
not
I-
everybody gets that.
No, that's
not
fair.
everybody gets it, and not everybody has it. I mean,
Yeah, that's what-
being so
yeah.
transparent is not for everybody.
Right.
We got a lot of people that are clamoring for the limelight and the microphone and this platform, but who the fuck are they?
Right.
Like other than wanting just being thirsty for the limelight.
Who's the most surprising person to reach out because you've gotten to this level now? Who are like, you know what, I want to be on that show.
So this is a true story. I always knew that I wanted LL on the show, but I was like, how do you get LL? And then about a year ago, had a vivid dream, and I remember waking up, and I said, "Honey, I'm going to interview LL Cool J." Right? I just
Mescaline, yeah.
no more mescaline. Say no to drugs, man.
It needs a rhyme. Mescaline is,
So I had been
Back,
reaching out
yeah.
to his PR, and we were going back and forth. And then last year, we were at A3C,
yeah.
and his PR hit me and was like, "Yo, LL's in Atlanta. He wants you to interview him right now." But when you're at these conferences and these festivals, there's so much shit going on,
Right.
Yeah.
and I'm so focused on this and focused on that. I was like, "There's no fucking way I can interview LL this week." And no disrespect to LL, but this is LL.
Yeah.
And so after 3, they were bugging me to interview LL, and I was like, at a certain point, I was like, respectfully, like, I can't do LL while we're down in Atlanta. And a couple of months later, he was in town, but LL really wanted to be on the show, and
That's
I was
great.
like, "Yo, like,
That's really great.
yeah."
Does he listen to your podcast? Do you know?
I think he had, the Chuck.
He's
D,
aware of it.
The Chuck D episode
Yeah.
really broke ground for that generation of legends.
Yeah.
Because it was like, oh shit, it's this other shit going on.
Right.
Without and Chuck's talking, because Chuck is hard to have access to.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
No, and I think what's really cool is that you've not only you can get the Kevin Gateses
Right.
and you can get the Chuck D's.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
not just doing like no one can pin you in one corner.
Dude.
I mean,
you
Norman
had-
Lear is the better.
Norman Lear,
Norman Lear,
the hip hop cop,
Hip hop cop Corey Pegues. Our next episode, well, it's going to be, but is Lisa Evers.
Oh, dope.
cool.
And the reason why I wanted to,
You guys already recorded it, right? I saw a picture with you guys.
We
Yeah.
recorded it. So Lisa, to me, is an amazing story because we know her as this Fox 5 reporter,
Yep.
and we know her as
Street Soldiers.
pioneer street soldiers, but she did such a great job of kind of like having people forget her past as Lisa Sliwa, wife of Curtis Sliwa,
Yeah.
co-leaders of the Guardian Angels.
Yeah, right. Had
and
no
just
idea.
like that whole, like if you go back, there's not much footage on her, but if you go back to, if you look at Lisa Sliwa, there's her. She was wild, dude. Like on the Morton Downey Junior show back
Yeah.
in the 80s, or running around with like a young wild Howard Stern, and like she really had this like zero tolerance for crime. She was really outspoken and really brutal with regard to the Central Park Five, and then just seeing her do this. So I had to get that story.
Yeah.
Had to get that story.
Man, the Jessica Rosenblum episode was
It
fantastic.
changed my life. Like that, I swear to God, it changed my life.
Why?
Because I remember that was one of those periods where things were changing. I think I had just lost Dallas Penn from the show, and I was like, what's going on? Am I falling off? There's always that voice like, are you falling off?
Sure.
And so she came on the show, and I was going through this period where I was not getting the guests that I wanted. Like I was just like, not, I was like, my batting average sucked.
Okay.
And I was like, did I lose it? And so we had Russell on, and he had mentioned how Jessica had opened up the doors for him in the downtown scene. And I was like, well, let's get Jessica. I was like, sometimes you have those guests. I don't know if I'm one of those guests. It was like, yeah, we'll settle for you. So she was a settled guest, I think, at the time. And then she was so brilliant. And she told me, I asked her, what did she credit her success to? And she said that, Chris Lighty used to always tell her, whatever's going on around you, stay in your lane and master your lane. And I was like, this is so, it's so important that I hear this right now because shit is changing. And I'm looking at I was looking at everybody else's lane, like trying to figure out what am I going to do.
Is this post Complex?
Post Complex, yeah. Because I think the reason why I was also in this state is because coming off that high of the Complex show was like, I got to find another one.
Yeah,
I got to
right.
find this.
Yeah.
I got to find that. I got to do a live show. So I was looking at what everybody else was doing and not what I was doing. And
Right.
it really stuck with me. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to turn down all the noise, tune everything out, and just stay in my silo.
Dope.
And then last year ended up being an amazing year for us.
Well, let's talk about this real quick.
Yeah.
You started a podcast network.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Talk about like just levels.
So I really credit all of that to my partner Chris Morrow. So when things were kind of going shaky with PNC, when I was an online radio show, Twitter's amazing because I would just talk to Twitter and people would answer. And so Chris Morrow, amazing guy. So Chris is like the ghostwriter, not the ghostwriter, but he's the he's a several times New York Times bestseller list for all the books he's written with Russell. He's got another book coming out on becoming a vegetarian. So he's got that angle covered. But he's also the producer for the syndicated arm of the Breakfast Club.
Right.
So he knows radio.
Right.
But he's been a student of the podcast game. His whole thing when we met was like, online radio shit is cool, but podcast is where it's at. So when I left PNC, he used to shit. I don't know if I could talk about this. Anyway,
Yeah.
so I had access to a very important person's studio,
Yeah.
and we just converted the show into podcast. So
Yeah.
as we were building our relationship, he was like, "Let's build a network." And we had tried other shows, Sneaker Fiends, the show with Jazz Fly, and
Yep.
Reality Check. And then we discovered, I don't want to say we discovered, but we came across Kid Fury.
Right.
Right.
And I thought, and then Crystals, and I thought it was really cool because at the time, because we played a pause game,
Right.
we're getting a lot of flack for being like quasi homophobic and the whole nine. I was like, yo, let's find someone that will throw that off so that
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're not stuck in that, that
That's like Odd Future.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And then we didn't know this guy would become the flagship show.
Right. Well, how do you connect with Tax?
Tax, I think, was both a Kid Fury and a Charlemagne call.
Okay.
They saw his heat and his
On Twitter.
and
Yep.
they were like, "That dude."
Yeah.
So
But you
know,
hadn't met him.
I hadn't met him.
Nor had you heard like what he sounds like.
No, but
He's so good.
I'll tell you, we're really fortunate, man, because it's a really organic, very loose relationship. But Charlemagne has been really instrumental in helping us, find talent. So he's the one that was like, you got to fuck with Tax.
Yeah.
And then Kid Fury was like, you got to fuck with Tax. And we were like, we got to fuck with Tax. And that was a gamble because like this motherfucker was like
Wild.
wild. But I can tell you, I love that dude, man,
Yeah.
because he's so genuine.
Yeah.
He's new to the game. He's only been
Yeah.
in this blog game. I mean, in this podcast game since February. So going from February 0 to 60, he's now on Uncommon Sense. So I've seen him struggle with how do I walk away from this street life and really embrace
Right.
Right.
this new world. How do I not fuck this up? And which blows my mind, the women love him.
Well, yeah,
Like,
they
he's-
do.
He like I was like, Tax, don't fuck around, my dude. Like I was like, honey, what is it about Tax? She's like, nah, he's got it. Like
Yeah.
he's the bad boy that girls want to be with. So he's become this like this sex symbol.
His Memphis Bleak episode
Yes.
Was
his Styles episode,
Yes,
like
yes.
just like solid. You're getting a different point of view.
and our advertisers are blown away with Tax because they're like, he needs to go into history books for bringing the medium, the podcast medium,
To the streets.
to really
Yeah.
the streets. Like the Combat Jack show is kind of highbrow
Right.
to like some of his audience, and to me that's just amazing.
Yeah. Would you be open to, and is it a possibility for you to get Papoose on?
I have reached out to Papoose
Because for the people who don't know,
several times.
they're butting up heads.
Okay, so this was a learning experience. Like I guess early on in my podcast career, I let loose on Papoose, and it was one of those rare instances where you're not expecting that to go viral. It went super viral
Yeah.
to the point where it was like I got some calls from some very serious people like, "Yo, just lay low."
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't like that, and at the time I thought it was genius what I was saying, but I really discovered really the responsibility we have when you have a platform and when you have a voice, because you can say some really hurtful things that could really just disrupt not only your safety, but the livelihood of somebody else. So, morally, like I look back and it's like it's fucked up, and it's not coming from a perspective of like being afraid or I'm just owning up. It's fucked
Right.
up that I went in on Papoose like that, and so I've reached out to his people, like not just for this to be like a hit episode or for the sensational aspect of it. It's like I want to talk to the dude.
Sure.
I want to apologize to the dude, and I think it would be a great just getting to know who Papoose
Sure,
is.
yeah,
I think
you
it would
give
be
him
a
that platform.
great interview, but it hasn't happened.
And that's his right too. I
And that's
guess,
his right
yeah,
too. I
yeah.
mean, he doesn't take disrespect too lightly, and I respect that. But I
Yeah.
still want to have a conversation with him face to face. Hopefully, in front of the microphone, so that we could really just have a really great conversation, man.
Sure. Does young Reggio say, growing up, going to elementary school, have any idea that this is the life you're going to live? A commentator, conversationalist.
No, but one of my aunts tells me, like, she really doesn't know what I do. She doesn't understand this podcast thing, but she sees
Join the club.
She sees me doing like these, these public speaking engagements, and she's like, listen, when you were 3, we would be on the bus, on a public bus, and whoever was sitting in our proximity, you would start interviewing them. And I always knew that you would do something interviewing people, and I don't have any recollection of it.
But how great is that, though?
And I guess it kind of affirms, like, I don't want to sound too hokey, but I really like having different careers and having to push and fit and squeeze like this. It feels so great to be in a career that's pulling me as opposed to pushing, and it really makes me. I have this awareness that at this point in my life, I'm really doing my life's work.
That's
like
awesome.
I'm really doing something that I don't complain about, something that I really love, something that I know inherently I'm the best at what I do.
Yeah.
And like I say that.
Well, present company excluded.
I mean, no, but we don't do the same thing.
No.
We do different things, but at what I do, I'm in my lane, and I'm the happiest that I've ever been.
That's great.
So, it lends credence to what she said about, you'd always, she knew I was always going to do this because it's something. I believe if you do something as a child endlessly and you have a passion for it, that's what you were meant to do as an adult.
Don't
There
you
it
see
is.
this as a natural extension of like being a lawyer, though?
Of
like,
course.
yeah, just like drawing information out of people.
Drawing information, examining, cross-examining, the research, the reading, facts and fact-checking, and just trying to read body language and trying to pull out as much information as possible.
Yeah.
I do this, I've been speaking now at colleges, and there's this one real-life story I have of a friend of mine, pardon me, Cesar Chivetta. And Cesar trained to become a classical conductor. He wanted to conduct orchestras, classical orchestras. So he gets out of school and he realizes that's not the easiest fucking job to find. And so he sends resumes out with dreams of conducting in China, Russia, all over South Africa, all over the world. Nothing. So about a year or so after just struggling, he finds a job as a painter painting houses. So he's like, how far away can you be from being a conductor and painting houses? So he's depressed, but he never gives up. Eventually he starts conducting. He conducts in China, Russia, South Africa. He had an opportunity to conduct in front of the late, great Nelson Mandela.
Wow.
Yeah.
But the first performance he gets up on the stage and he starts conducting, and he realizes that his stroke is immensely stronger and a lot more powerful and adds more depth to his performance.
Pause.
And he realizes, pause, stroke.
Stroke,
Good pause. And he realizes that those muscles have been developed through all of those years
Painting.
of painting houses. So I really believe there are no wasted moments, man.
That's what it is.